Hello, I'm Dr. Basil Considine, and today we're going to be talking about writing about emotional intelligence and leadership. This is one of our targeted webinars. It specifically looks at this task through the lens of an assignment in EdD 714. If you are writing about emotional intelligence in another context, such as a business program or counseling, you're certainly welcome to attend and participate. However, we are going to specifically looking at that assignment and the constraints and sources there. If you are not familiar with what we do at the Writing Center, we have both webinars such as this on general and specific topics, as well as we offer consultations where you can reserve a time, send us your draft, we send you feedback via email, or you can request a real-time phone or Zoom appointment in case you have questions that you want to go back and forth on, you want to see something modeled. Just send us an email with a list of potential times and some details about what you're interested in talking about or what you have questions about, and that will help us match up with someone to help you with that specific task. We also have copies of recordings for webinars such as this. There's slide decks, sample papers, templates, and more on the Online Writing Center website. We have just a couple more webinars coming up this term. Beyond Summary is a very popular one. We'll be referencing it in this webinar, by the way. And we also have a couple of recordings that are going to be released in the rest of September. And then we'll be back with a new schedule for fall too. All right, so we're going to be laser focused today on this assignment in Leadership 714. But before we do that, I want to show you a little bit about something we have available on the Writing Center website, because I bet if you are watching this webinar that you are enrolled in Leadership 714 or considering or planning to be. If you go to the Writing Center's website to our webinars pages, that is under Services Writing Webinars, you'll see we have the schedule at the top with the lists, and as we offer each webinar, we add a link to the recording. But you may not be aware that we have added something here, a sorted guide by program and course. So if you're enrolled in the leadership program, you're working on your EdD here, just go ahead and click on that. And let's say you're enrolled in Leadership 714. And you see, oh, we have something for week 1 up here. We have something for week 3. We already have something for week 7. And when we're done with this particular webinar, it will be added to this, as well as our week 6 webinar for Leadership 714 will be added in and to this area as well. So you'll be able to check back here. So each week, as you see, oh, I've got this assignment. Is there anything I can watch for a little bit of extra guidance or focusing? We are now tracking every course that we have a webinar tie-in and listing it here. So whether you're taking that course now or you're in one of our other programs and looking down the line, I hope you find that helpful. All right, so let's talk about this assignment here. So this is for Leadership 714, which has a lot of introspection because this is, after all, the self-assessment in the leader's course. And this assignment comes with a few parts. We've got the preamble, we've got the main instructions, some notes, a rubric. Let's break those down in turn. So let's go through the preamble. You will take the Emotional Intelligence Appraisal Self-Assessment and examine feedback on your emotional intelligence. Your results will be held in confidence. You will determine ways in which you might increase your emotional intelligence in order to enhance your self-leadership capabilities. Follow the steps below to complete this assignment. First, use the code in your copy of Emotional Intelligence to take the appraisal, and go ahead and do the reading and check out all the module resources. Ultimately, you're going to be writing a 3 to 5 page paper in 2 parts. Part 1, the synthesis. You're supposed to synthesize the course readings or resources, demonstrating a solid understanding of current research on emotional intelligence. And part 2, we have a more detailed analysis where there's a specific list of how you're supposed to analyze your assessment results to include your discussion of whether you believe they're accurate and if there are any factors that you might be experiencing now that might skew the results. And you're also supposed to discuss a time in your personal professional life when you did or did not demonstrate EI. And third bullet, you need to identify and describe some strategies to strengthen your current level of emotional intelligence and relate those to the information you've learned about yourself through other things in this course so far. All right, that's fairly straightforward. We have a detailed list of things to do. And for a paper of 3 to 5 pages of content, that's fairly clear. If we do all those things, we'll end up right in that ballpark. Now, there are a couple notes about videos and other things to review, most of which is about having clear paragraphs that shows that you have analyzed and synthesized the different information. Looking at the rubric, you'll see that this specifically is grading you on your synthesis and analysis. Now, analysis, as far as it's listed in the rubric, that's referring to the section when you analyze yourself and your results. And so we'll just clarify that the concept of synthesis is an umbrella term that usually is broken down into giving claims or arguments, evidence to support those, analysis of the information, and synthesis where you combine it together and create new meanings. And you should be doing all of these things in the synthesis section. That's the part 1 here. Now, analysis, again, is where you compare information and you judge it in many different ways. And one of the things that you're going to be doing here is you're not just going to be reporting, well, I got this. You're going to say, well, how does that compare to things before? Do I believe this is accurate? And then you'll also be doing a little bit of synthesis here when you are taking that information and applying. You do the, well, how does this matter? Well, I'm going to do X. I'm going to follow this strategy based on what I know. So although the umbrella headings are analysis and synthesis, there's actually a bit of both strategies. So if we were to name this second section self-analysis, and the first section, if we were to name that synthesis of course material, then we'd have a more accurate understanding of what's going on here. All right. So there are these resources. Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's move and look at the assignment page here. And as you can see, we have links to take the test. By the way, if you missed this in the syllabus, you do need to have a new copy of Emotional Intelligence 2.0, because if someone has used the code to take this test, you won't be able to reuse it. So just a heads up. Don't wait till the end of the week to take this, because if you need to purchase something new, it might take a little bit of time. All right, so let's look forward at what might come up in drafting and outlining this paper. And I will say, please grab a copy of the APA course paper template if you don't have one already. This will save you a lot of time. It will save you a lot of trouble, and it will enable you to do much of the formatting tasks very easily without having to worry about so many details, because a lot of it is set up for you already. Now, if you open this link, that will bring you to our Google Drive, where you'll be able to download a copy of the paper. And I'm just going to go ahead and download this copy here that has no comments or abstract. And so I can go ahead and open that on my computer, and I'll have it all set and ready to go. All right, now, before we begin, we always want to make sure in a highly structured professional program like this that we're doing everything that's being asked, and that we're doing it in the order that is listed, because that will be the order that is checked, and we want it to be very clear that things are being taken care of. So answer each prompt directly using the wording from the prompt, and then respond in detail. If you're talking about your own experience, your own thoughts, use I statements. Again, use the language of the prompts to make it clear what you are doing in each place, and use consistent word choices to refer to the same things. There are lots of places in everyday life where we use so-called genericized language. So someone says, oh, what kind of car do you drive? And you might say, well, okay, my van is this. And in colloquial English, that wouldn't be a problem. But if someone asks, hey, what kind of car do you drive? And you say, I drive a van, they might not be clear if you have more than one vehicle and you're just naming the one that happens to be a van, rather than you say, my car is a van, and we say, oh, you're answering the exact question that was asked. We also want to use the rubric and the instructions to come up with approximate headings for organization and section lengths. That's not to say that they have to be exactly as laid out, but something close, incorporating the wording, and it will be more clear, oh, this is the section where that happens, and that we look at the lengths in proportion. So let's dial back and go look at that rubric. So we have here 20% of the grade is going to be, all right, is this the right length? Does it cite both types of sources? And does it meet basic writing and APA standards? So the 20% is, did you follow those technical details? The other 80% of the grade is about the content. And if we look at that, so we're talking about the body of the paper, which is going to be 3 to 5 pages. So if we look at these, we see that roughly a quarter of that, the body pages, quarter of the body pages, we're getting that credit for the synthesis section. So that's about a page. Could be a little bit less, could be a little bit more, but about a page for our introduction and the synthesis here, where you're discussing the course readings. And that means that we have somewhere around 3 pages, could be a little bit less, could be a little bit more, for the analysis of your test results in all of its different parts. And you can see that these should be substantial things, that each of these bullets here gets a full 25% of the credit for the content and 20% of the paper grade overall. So don't skimp on any of those. It should be substantial. We're not talking like one short paragraph. Go for probably at least 2 paragraphs for each of these. All right, other things. Well, we are working with a couple sources. If we look at the syllabus here, we can see that the Bradbury and Greaves text is listed there. And what a lot of students do is they will go ahead and they will just copy and paste the reference from the syllabus. And they'll usually run into a couple problems, because if we look at this closely, we see that there are just a couple things that we want to tweak before you submit it for you to get a grade. One is to put a period after the date, 2009, close parentheses, put a period. And then APA references don't include the ISBN. The ISBN is very handy if you're ordering the book, because it tells you the exact edition that has been specified, but we don't want that in our references list. The other thing is that question of, is emotional intelligence 2.0, is the I in intelligence supposed to be capitalized or not? And that's a good question, because it hinges on one important thing. And that important thing is whether or not emotional intelligence 2.0 is the name of a test. Because an APA style, a test, a survey, a measurement instrument is capitalized in title case. Now, a lot of students will look at this and say, oh, emotional intelligence 2.0, obviously that must be the test that's in the book. Well, it's an easy mistake to make, but technically speaking, emotional intelligence 2.0 is just the book title. So in your references, it should not be capitalized in title case, it should be in sentence case. Now, if we look at this, how are we going to cite that? Well, we're going to cite like any other source. It is a book where 2 authors wrote everything in it. They did not edit other people's chapters. It's just going to be Bradbury and Greaves all the time. Bradbury and Greaves, parentheses 2009, said this as blah, blah, blah. The source for it, parenthetical citation, Bradbury ampersand Greaves, comma, 2009. And again, we don't use those ISBN numbers. Make sure also if you are copy and pasting any past references, because you are going to be discussing those previous tests or test results, make sure that you don't include the ISBN number for those either. And just a hint, if you are referring to StrengthsFinder, because StrengthsFinder is actually the name of a measurement instrument, that does have the F in Finder capitalized, so there's no space between Strengths and Finder. StrengthsFinder 2.0 is a specific version of the test. All right, so how would you cite your test results? Well, we have a question first. What is the name of the thing that you are taking? And that is the emotional intelligence appraisal, which you can see here is capitalized in title case. So the E at the beginning of emotional, the I at the beginning of intelligence, the A at the end of, sorry, at the start of appraisal. The first three letters of the name are all capitalized in title case. I completed the emotional intelligence appraisal, and then to indicate where you got it, Bradbury and Greaves 2009. Now, there are many tests that you can take in more than one form. So if you are using your code from the book, it's not inaccurate to cite the text here. However, if you just went to the website and you purchased a code there, say you had a used copy of the textbook, you would not be accessing it directly through that book. And so you'd be using a direct citation to that online assessment that you completed. Now, one of the reasons I mentioned this is that it's not uncommon as books are updated and tests are updated for people to route to different versions of the test and for organizations to keep old versions of a test online because you want to do comparative things. And so just cite the version you use and then there's no problem. All right, so you might write something like, I completed the emotional intelligence appraisal, citation, author, date. According to results, I blah. Or my emotional intelligence appraisal results showed that I. Do not, again, write my emotional intelligence 2.0 results, because emotional intelligence 2.0 is the name of the book, not the test itself. Now, if you're interpreting the results, you might end up with something like this. I scored very high in the self-management category. According to Bradbury and Greaves, 2009, an important strategy for self-management is to make your goals public. In this case, we're quoting the exact phrasing from there, so we include the page number citation, page 100. This is a strategy that I practice on a daily basis, which may explain my high score in this category. Now, at this point, let us move to looking at the template and specifically how to go from the template, from the rubric and the assignment instructions to the template. Okay, our next step is to start using the template. And it's a good practice in general to go to the assignment and to grab the content description. That's this part of the assignment here. And to go ahead and copy that. And now we will go ahead and go to a copy of the template here. You can fill in your name and things like that later. And just go ahead and we'll take all of this placeholder stuff and we're just going to replace it with a copy and paste. And I'm going to go ahead and select match destination formatting, just because I will make it look a little bit clearer. All right, so we're going to, of course, have an introduction. There'll be an introductory paragraph. It will not have a heading, but it's going to be there at the top. It's going to include a statement about what I'm writing about and what the major parts of this paper are. Now, our first section is going to be synthesis. So I know that's going to have a heading. All right, I want to make sure it has a heading so my professor knows that I've done that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this APA level 1 style here. And you can see that just by clicking on it, this text that I had clicked onto becomes centered. If it had been unbolded like so, and I go ahead and click on AP level 1, it is also bolded now. So you can see that using the template styles helps a bit. Now, I mentioned earlier that so long as there's a clear concordance between the different sections, and your headings, you can tweak the name a little bit. So I'm going to change this to synthesis of course materials, and I'll get rid of that part 1. And this one I'm going to have, I'll call this analysis of assessment results. Or to be more concise, assessment results and analysis, but I think I'm fine with analysis of assessment results. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this into a list of bullets. So we see these are all things that we're supposed to be putting notes in. All right. Now, in the introductory paragraph, I know I need to list major content, so I'm going to point out that I synthesize course readings, discuss assessment results. This is the outline portion. So I'm just making notes on the content that goes in there. I'm also going to discuss a personal anecdote. And also need to mention that I'm going to develop some strategies. And that's coming right from reading through and sorting this out. You want to write these in the order that they come up. And as you are going through and working on this, you can see, okay, well, I've decided the time I'm going to use this is that one very uncomfortable incident at work. Okay, so I'll call it and say, well, hopefully you demonstrated emotional intelligence in your anecdote in the instance that I'm creating for this example. I'm going to say that I did not. So you're going to write a couple things. What happened? What was my role? What were my actions? And then should or would, would if you had more emotional intelligence in that area, should have being your recommendation. Now, if we go look at this and say, okay, it says, what were the results? So we see, oh, this resulted in. And so just organizing this, we see first, we'll have one paragraph that describes what happened, what was the role, what were my actions, and what were the results of this. And then, okay, we want to discuss things. Oh, here's another question here. And that fits. So how does this impact what you did in the moment? And then number 3, what you would have done instead if you had more emotional intelligence. So this is setting us up to have really 3 paragraphs here. So there's this event that we describe. First paragraph is the basics. Okay, what happened? What was the role? What were my actions? And how didn't they show EI, or did in your case, perhaps? And what was the result of that? This results in the, okay, well, that's what happened at the company. Now, if this is a good anecdote that you've picked to write about, then it should have impacted your self-leadership in some way, or how you lead others in some way. And that could be you decided, oh, I need to change. It could be I need to get better at this. It could be, oh, that was the right thing. I should do more of that. Whichever it is, write about that. Tell us about it. Now, for the what you should or would have done instead, that's going to be a question of what your assessment is looking back. And it might be things went well, but you noticed, oh, hey, I now know about this thing, I would do this as well. So write about that here. All right, let's talk about the third one. Identify and describe strategies to strengthen your current level of emotional intelligence. So this is going to be calling back to the results that you present here. Now, this is a section that people usually don't have too much trouble filling in and here, but go back to that and say, okay, well, are any of these weak that you want to work on? And if so, how? And there'll be some strategies that are in the reading and some strategies that are you can create on your own. Now, if we go here and we look at the book Emotional Intelligence, here we see, oh, here's a list of self-management strategies. Now you could say, oh, I'm doing some of these already and list those out, but I am going to work on those that I didn't have and list out, oh, I'm going to work on controlling my self-talk or cleaning up my sleep hygiene or putting a mental recharge into the schedule, as the case may be. Or you might say, well, this is actually working really well. I'm going to stop or not doing this thing and work on this other strategy. Or may even said, well, smile and laugh, or actually that does not work for me. And there could be reasons why it doesn't work. At one point in time, common workplace advice was smile, you'll be happier. And now there's more of a realization in workplaces that actually really annoys some people. It makes them angry. So you might say, well, that does not work for me, or I'm not going to tell that to the people I'm trying to work with because I've noticed it doesn't work. So whatever it is, you can list those. And when you're describing it, you can include wording that refers to the text. And then, oh, what's our source here? What are we setting? Again, that's going to be Bradbury and Greaves. So you can both describe what you are doing and what you're not doing. And that's part of your creating, not just aping a strategy, but saying, okay, I understand myself and which things will work towards this. And you can even reference and utilize strategies that have been broached, that have been mentioned in other reading, because it does specifically say other pieces of self-leadership explored thus far in the course. So if you're picking things because it fits into a deliberate strategy that you're practicing, awesome. One of the things we hope you are doing in this program is building on your strengths over time. So going back to this assignment, remember, we want to make sure that you are doing everything in appropriate proportion. So 3 to 5 pages means that each of these main areas, that the synthesis where you reflect on the course readings or resources, and each of the main sections of the analysis, that's these bullets here, should be somewhere page-ish. Could be a little bit less, could be a little bit more. It's probably going to be at least 2 substantial paragraphs as for the analysis stuff, possibly 3. But if you go ahead and you just start outlining using bullets, listing things, you'll find that you'll, just by doing exactly what the instructions tell you to do and giving supporting examples, that you will come up to that length. Last thing there. So if we look at the Writing Center website, you will find that we have a number of resources, including some that are referenced and some that are not referenced in the guidelines for this assignment. Now, something I will strongly recommend that we have actually coming up next week That's Tuesday, the 21st of September. But you can also view online in recording form our Beyond Summary webinar, because this delves into paragraph writing and specifically about how to make it clear when you are synthesizing, make it clear when you are analyzing. And a lot of that is about not just the facts that you write, but how you introduce it. So if you have a logical bridge like, therefore I should, that is telling us, oh, based on those things before, you are synthesizing that and creating a recommendation. I should do X. Or when you're analyzing things, if you're saying, well, I scored high on this for the emotional intelligence appraisal, but I scored low on this in the strengths finder category that's similar to that. Therefore, I am going to look at ways that I can just improve this across the board and look at subsets of that I'm looking to improve, for example. So I strongly recommend that webinar. Just if you look in the full catalog, you'll see that we have recordings that are available to watch immediately. So you don't have to wait for that to come around. You can start watching. All right, that's it for today. Thank you for joining us. Have a great rest of the day.